Anju, it's a pleasure to welcome you.
Thank you.
You're a resident here in New York City. You've been running a startup, surviving and thriving for the last 10 years. So it's good to get your perspective because the other speakers I've spoken to all represent big firms. So it's nice to understand how do you see as a startup trying to survive in a big ocean like New York City.
Great. Thanks, and pleasure talking to you. As you said, I have been running a fintech startup. I would still call it a startup. Been running for a while, and my firm is focused on financial data. And as you mentioned, I work with some of the largest institutions, banks, hedge funds, and the only way to survive and get noticed by them is having a differentiated product. I think the kind of data and analytics we are providing to these firms is so compelling that, of course, it took us a while to get noticed. It took us quite some time, and we see the traction now that, companies notice what kind of product we have, and they are reaching out to us even without even calling some of the customers. I think that when you have that kind of differentiation, I think it gets relatively easy to survive in the large crowd here.
Right. So there are some good lessons to learn from you. Let me first understand, for the sake of the other startups and audience, what do you focus on as a company?
Okay, so as a company, we focus on providing data for institutional investors. So what we do is, we extract data from all the unstructured data. As you know, the big data is the buzz everything. You have data everywhere. For any investment decisions, particularly from the institutions, the more structured data you have, the better, the faster they can make decisions. And now, of course, now it is all quantitative and AI and ML-based trading. For them to be successful, data is the key. And unfortunately, a lot of the data that you need about a company, what the company is doing, what are their products, what are there any legal issues with the company, who is the management, when is the management changing. So these are all the type of things. All this data is it may be in press releases, it may be in company websites and filings, but it's not structured. So our job is we created a platform where it can collect all this data from different sources and provide in a structured manner, in a timely manner to the companies so that they can feed this into their algorithms and models to make decisions faster. So that's the kind of business we are in. And to your point, when we started quite some time ago, probably like many of the startups you will see, probably we were ahead of our times. When we came up with this model, many of the companies don't have the kind of AI tools and data scientists that they have today. And they say, hey, this is great, but how do I use it? And we waited long enough now for the last 2-3 years. I think as you see everywhere, every company has a data scientist. It doesn't matter what business you are in. I think that is really helping us get noticed and getting called to the meetings with big companies.
You have shared some key points in your discussion now. One is that you have to have a unique proposition.
Right.
Trying to solve a unique problem for the customer.
Right.
The problem has to be much larger than what you can think of.
Right.
The other one is, which you said, is sometimes you are ahead of the curve, so you have to have the perseverance and the wherewithal to withstand the pressure for years to make sure that you are at the right moment.
Right.
For somebody who's starting out, the first thing they think of is, how do I knock on the door of a customer, and how do I get funds? Before doing all the other homework that needs to be done. So how does one address these two important points: getting the first customer, and obviously,
No, I think that's great. In fact, that was the session we just ran on how do you get noticed by big companies. If you are a startup, particularly if your business is selling to enterprises, that's what I'm in. And how do you get noticed, and how do you get through the door in the first place? I think the key is you need to think from the customer. Sometimes many of the startups, what they do is, okay, I know this technology, let me build a product. I think the key is to identify, make sure what is the problem I'm trying to solve, which are the companies, how does it is going to pay. When I am trying to solve a problem for big companies as a startup, it needs to be something unique and distinct that they are not able to do and the other existing big vendors are not able to do. Only then they will come to you. If you're just trying to provide some people or some regular solution, nobody will come to you. I think that is the key. Identifying what problem you're going to solve is the key. Without that, it doesn't matter how much money you spend in reaching out to the customers or how much partnerships you build, it's not going to happen. I think that's the number one, to have the right solution for the large customers, particularly when you're looking for large customers. And the second aspect is, again, how do you make sure you reach out to them? Whether sometimes you need to have great partnerships, you need to participate in events where you get noticed. Maybe you can go as a speaker, you can go or write into the blogs, or more importantly, if you can find any other partners who can provide access. I know I heard quite a lot about, obviously, Vizag Fintech Valley, where one of the key themes is to provide market access. I think that kind of opportunity is excellent for any startup, because you can build a product, you can raise your money, but nobody can give you access to that market, access to the customers. I think that if you have those kind of partnerships involved, I think that will be the key, make you successful as a startup.
I'm glad you mentioned the last part, because that's what I was to build my next question on. You have been engaged with the initiative of the Andhra Pradesh government for the Vizag Fintech Festival.
Right.
And like you said, it's not just the $1 million that the government is giving, but like you said, the opportunity to bring companies to India and through AP open the floodgates to the Indian market.
Right. Absolutely. I think, I'm sure most of the startups participating in this $1 million challenge understand and realize it's not just about the money they are winning. The visibility they get, the very fact that, I believe now there are hundreds of startups competing with this, and the very fact that they are singled out from this, and the visibility they get from the very fact, both in terms of customers and the investors, two key things. And the second, AP is going to help them in connecting with the investors, with the customers. That's a very important aspect. And AP also has, based on the discussions we have seen, where provide other benefits. I think that's probably is a bigger value, many millions more than the part of the $1 million prize they are going to win. I'm sure most of the startups are looking for that kind of support and help rather than just the money. Of course, the money is important. You need to make sure that you get for some of the companies, that initial seed is very significant. But I think the bigger value is beyond this.
Right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming, taking the time, and thank you for helping host this great event in your city.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. Thank you.